The first time I heard her say it, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it sounded too ridiculous to be real. We were standing in the break room of a high-rise office in downtown Chicago, the kind with floor-to-ceiling windows and overpriced coffee machines that hiss louder than people gossip. It was just past 9 a.m., and the usual crowd had gathered, heels clicking, keyboards clacking, and whispers floating like cigarette smoke. And then she said it. "The one thing keeps him in line," she bragged, swirling her latte like she was holding court. A few women leaned in. One of them giggled. I didn't. Her name was Vanessa Cole. Late 20s, sharp cheekbones, the kind of confidence that wasn't built, it was weaponized. She dressed like she owned the building, even though we all knew she was just another senior account manager like the rest of us. But Vanessa had something else. Influence. Not the Instagram kind. The real kind. The kind that made people uncomfortable because you couldn't quite figure out where it came from. Or how deep it went. "So what is it?" one of the interns asked, eyes wide like she was about to be handed a secret to life. Vanessa smirked. She leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice, but not enough. "His reputation," she said. Silence. Then, "Oh my God," someone whispered. I stayed where I was, stirring my coffee slowly, watching her reflection in the microwave door. Vanessa continued. "I don't need to yell, I don't need to argue. All I have to do is remind him that I know everything and I can destroy everything." A few gasps, a few impressed nods. She took a sip, completely unfazed. "That's the one thing that keeps him in line." I felt something cold slide down my spine. Because I knew exactly who she was talking about. Daniel Brooks. My older brother. Daniel wasn't perfect. But he wasn't weak either. At least, he didn't used to be. Growing up, he was the kind of guy who stood between trouble and everyone else. The kind who took punches and still came home smiling. He worked hard, stayed quiet, and built his life brick by brick. And now he flinched when his phone buzzed. Now he checked in before making decisions. Now he apologized for things that weren't his fault. And the worst part, he didn't even realize what was happening to him. Because Vanessa didn't control him loudly. She controlled him precisely. And I hated her for it. I didn't confront her that day. Or the next. I watched. I listened. And I learned. Vanessa was careful. She never said too much in public, but she said enough. Little fragments, half-truths, strategic hints. She wanted people to know she had power, but not how she got it. But I had an advantage. I wasn't just a coworker. I was family. And I had access to things she didn't know about. That night, I went to Daniel's apartment. He opened the door with a tired smile. "Hey, kid." He still called me that, even though I was 26. I stepped inside, scanning the place. It was clean, too clean, like nothing had been touched. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just work stuff." He didn't meet my eyes. I sat down on the couch. "Vanessa was talking about you today." That got his attention. His shoulders stiffened. "What did she say?" I watched him carefully. "She said she keeps you in line." Silence. Then a forced chuckle. "She jokes like that." "No," I said, "she doesn't." His jaw tightened. "She's just intense sometimes." "Daniel." He looked away. And that's when I saw it. Not fear. Not exactly. Something worse. Conditioning. Like he'd already decided how this conversation was supposed to go, and anything outside of that script made him uncomfortable. "She's helped me a lot," he said quietly. "With what?" He hesitated. "Career stuff, connections, she knows people." And he exhaled. "And she knows things about me." There it was. I leaned forward. "What kind of things?" He shook his head immediately. "It's nothing." "Daniel." I said it's nothing. His tone snapped, just for a second. Then he softened again. "Look, I've got it handled." "No, you don't." But I didn't say it. "Not yet." I started digging the next day. Not dramatically. Not recklessly. Quietly. Carefully. Vanessa had a digital footprint, everyone does. You just have to know where to look. Old social media accounts, archived posts, tagged photos, connections. Patterns. And Vanessa. Vanessa had a pattern. 3 previous relationships. All ended the same way. Sudden. Messy. Silent afterward. No public fallout, no dramatic posts, just disappearance. But here's the interesting part. Each of those men had careers that depended on reputation. One lawyer. One startup founder. One local politician. And every time the relationship ended, their careers took a hit. Not a scandal. Not anything obvious. Just damage. Lost clients. Withdrawn support. Opportunities that vanished overnight. Like someone had quietly pulled a thread that unraveled everything. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. She didn't just control Daniel. She specialized in it. But I needed proof. Because suspicion isn't enough. Not when you're dealing with someone like her. 3 days later, I got it. Not all at once. Piece by piece. A message thread. An old email. A deleted post recovered through an archive. And then, the folder. Hidden. Encrypted. But not well enough. Inside it were screenshots. Dozens. Conversations. Photos. Documents. Every single one designed for one purpose. Leverage. Vanessa didn't just collect secrets. She curated them. Organized them. Used them. Each man was a project. And Daniel. He was her current one. I felt my stomach twist as I scrolled. There were messages between her and Daniel. Private. Vulnerable. Moments he trusted her with. And she saved all of it. Not for memory. For control. I closed my laptop slowly. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From clarity. Because now I understood. The one thing she bragged about. It wasn't just his reputation. It was the illusion that she was the only one who could protect it. And the moment he believed that, he was trapped. I didn't tell Daniel yet. Because if I did, he'd defend her. He wasn't ready to see it. So I made a decision. A dangerous one. I was going to remove the one thing that kept him in line. Not by exposing him. Not by confronting her. But by taking away her leverage. Quietly. Completely. Irreversibly. And once I did, she wouldn't just lose control. She'd lose everything. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was nervous. Because I was planning. Every move had to be precise. Vanessa wasn't careless. She didn't make mistakes. Which meant I couldn't either. Step 1, secure the data. I copied everything. Every file. Every screenshot. Every message. Multiple backups. Offline storage. Encrypted drives. If she tried to erase anything, I'd still have it. Step 2, understand her network. Vanessa wasn't acting alone. Not entirely. There were contacts. Lawyers. PR people. A few names that kept popping up. People who specialized in reputation management. The kind that doesn't fix problems. The kind that buries them. Step 3 was the hardest. Wait. Because timing. Timing is everything. For 5 days, I said nothing. I watched. I listened. And Vanessa. She kept smiling. Kept controlling. Kept believing she was untouchable. On day 6, she made a mistake. A small one. But enough. She mentioned something in the office. Something she shouldn't have known. About a client Daniel was working with. Confidential. Private. And she said it casually. like it was nothing. But I saw the look on Daniel's face. Confusion. Then concern. Because for the first time, he realized something didn't add up. That was the moment. The crack. And I was ready. That night, I went back to his apartment. He opened the door slower this time. Like he already knew why I was there. We need to talk, I said. He nodded. Stepped aside. I didn't ease into it. Didn't soften it. Didn't give him time to build walls. I put the laptop on the table, opened the folder, and turned it toward him. Look. He frowned. Then he started scrolling. And everything changed. I watched it happen. The denial. The confusion. The anger. The realization. Each emotion hitting him like waves. Until finally, he stopped, sat back, and just stared. He whispered. I didn't interrupt. Didn't explain. Didn't comfort. He needed to see it. All of it. She planned this, he said. Not a question. A statement. I nodded. Yes. His hands clenched. For how long? I exhaled slowly. Long enough. Silence. Heavy. Sharp. Real. Then he looked at me. And for the first time in months, he looked like himself again. What do we do? I leaned forward and said the one thing that would change everything. We take away her one thing. He didn't hesitate. Not this time. Tell me how. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just about saving him anymore. This was about ending her. And we were just getting started. Daniel didn't speak for a long time after that. Not because he didn't understand, but because he understood too well. There's a moment when someone realizes they've been controlled, where everything in their past starts rearranging itself. Words change meaning. Memories shift shape. What once felt like love starts to look like strategy. And Daniel was living that moment in real time. I told her everything, he said finally, voice low. Things I've never told anyone. I didn't soften my answer. I know. His eyes stayed on the screen. She knew exactly when to push, when to pull back, when to make me feel like I needed her. That's how she works. He laughed once. Empty. I thought I was lucky. No. You were targeted. But again, I didn't say it like that. Because the truth was already hitting him hard enough. Okay, he said after a while, sitting up straighter. No more reacting, we do this right. Now he sounded like the brother I grew up with. Strategic, focused. Dangerous when pushed too far. Good, I replied, because if we mess this up, she doesn't just fight back, she erases. He nodded. I believe that now. We didn't rush. That's the mistake people make when emotions take over. They go loud. We went quiet. The plan had 3 layers. Not 1. Not 2. 3. Because Vanessa didn't just have leverage. She had insurance. And people like her always have a backup plan for their backup plan. Layer 1, remove her access. Vanessa's power depended on proximity. Access to Daniel's life. His devices. His conversations. His vulnerabilities. So we cut it off. Clean. Immediate. No warning. The next morning, Daniel did something simple, but critical. He changed everything. Passwords. Cloud access. Work accounts. Personal email. 2-factor authentication on everything. New phone. New number. Even his apartment security system. He didn't block her. That would have been too obvious. He just disappeared. Digitally. And that alone. That rattled her. I saw it happen. Around 11:20 a.m., Vanessa walked into the office. Same heels. Same confidence. Same controlled smile. But her eyes. They were searching, scanning, calculating, because for the first time, she couldn't reach him. "Hey," she said casually when she saw me near the printer. "Have you seen Daniel?" I shrugged. "Not today." Her smile didn't drop, but it tightened. Just slightly. "Strange," she said. "He always checks in." "Always." "Not anymore." Layer 1 was working. But that was just the beginning. Layer 2 collapsed the illusion. Vanessa's real weapon wasn't the secrets. It was the belief that she was untouchable, that she controlled the narrative, that if she spoke, people would listen. So we didn't attack her directly. We destabilized her credibility. Piece by piece. Quietly. I started with her past. Those 3 men. The lawyer. The founder. The politician. I reached out not as myself, but through someone else. A contact I trusted. A journalist. Not the flashy kind. The careful kind. The one who doesn't publish until the story is airtight. At first, they were hesitant. Of course they were. Because from the outside, Vanessa looked clean. Professional. Polished. But once the first thread was pulled, everything started unraveling. The lawyer admitted it first. "She kept records," he said over a recorded call. "Conversations, arguments, private things. I thought it was just documentation. Then she used it." "Used it how?" "She didn't threaten me directly. She didn't have to. She just mentioned something, casually, enough to remind me what she had. Same pattern. Different victim." The founder's story was worse. "She got into my company files," he said. "Not illegally, I gave her access, trusted her. Then suddenly, investors started pulling out. Rumors started circulating. Things only she knew. And the politician. He didn't want to talk. At first. Until he saw the others were. Then he gave one sentence. She doesn't destroy you all at once. She makes sure you destroy yourself." That was enough. More than enough. But we still didn't publish anything. Not yet. Because this wasn't about exposure. Not yet. This was about pressure. Layer 3, remove the one thing. This was the most delicate part. The core. The heart of everything. Vanessa believed she owned Daniel's reputation. Because she had pieces of it. Private messages. Moments taken out of context. Things that could be twisted. But here's what she didn't expect. We weren't going to hide from it. We were going to take control of it. "Are you sure?" I asked him that night. Daniel stood by the window, looking out over the city. "No," he said honestly. Then he turned to me. "But I'm done being afraid of it." So we did something radical. Something she would never predict. We told the truth. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Strategically. Daniel requested a meeting. Not with Vanessa. With his firm. Senior partners. People who mattered. I sat outside while he went in. And for 2 hours, everything was on the table. Not as a confession. As a preemptive strike. He told them about the relationship. The access. The manipulation. The potential risks. And then, he showed them selected evidence. Not everything. Just enough. Enough to establish a pattern. Enough to prove intent. Enough to shift control. When he walked out, he looked lighter. Not relieved. But free. In a way he hadn't been in months. "What did they say?" I asked. He exhaled. "They're not happy. Expected. But they believe me. That's what mattered. And Vanessa." A pause. "They're reviewing her involvement with any clients connected to us." There it was. The first real crack in her world. But cracks. They spread. The next day, things shifted. Subtle, but undeniable. Vanessa still walked in like she owned the place. But the energy. Different. People weren't leaning in anymore. They were watching. Whispers changed direction. I caught fragments. Did you hear? Something about compliance. Internal review. And Vanessa. She felt it. Of course she did. People like her always do. At 2:15 p.m., she walked straight to Daniel's office. Didn't knock. Just opened the door. I followed. Not inside. Just close enough to hear. What did you do? She asked. No warmth. No charm. Just steel. Daniel didn't raise his voice. Didn't stand. Didn't react. I handled a situation. Her laugh was sharp. Handled, you went behind my back. No, he said calmly. I stepped out of it. Silence. Then, you think this protects you? She asked quietly. There it was. The threat. Daniel leaned back slightly. And for the first time, he smiled. Not warmly. Not kindly. Knowingly. It already has. I felt something shift in the air. Because in that moment, she realized the one thing was slipping. Her tone changed. Subtly. Dangerously. You're making a mistake. Maybe, he said, but it's mine to make. She stepped closer. Lowered her voice. You really want to do this? And then, he said it. The line that ended her control. I'm not afraid of what you have anymore. Silence. Heavy. Absolute. Because that was the one thing she needed. Fear. And it was gone. I didn't see her face fully. But I saw enough. The flicker. The calculation. The realization. And then she did something unexpected. She smiled. Not her usual polished smile. Something colder. Sharper. Okay, she said softly, then let's see what happens next. And she walked out. I stepped back before she saw me. Heart steady. Mind racing. Because I knew that smile. That wasn't defeat. That was escalation. I went back into Daniel's office. He was still sitting there. Calm, but focused. She's not done, I said. I know. What's her next move? He didn't answer right away. Then, she tries to prove I should have been afraid. Exactly. And that meant one thing. She was going to use everything she had. But this time, we were ready. Or at least, we thought we were. Because what Vanessa did next wasn't predictable, wasn't controlled. It was personal. And it hit harder than anything we'd planned for. 2 days later, the first rumor dropped. And this time, it wasn't quiet. It was loud. The rumor didn't spread. It detonated. By 9:05 a.m., it was already everywhere. Slack channels, whispered conversations in glass offices, text messages lighting up phones like a chain reaction no one could stop. By 9:12, Daniel's name was trending inside the company. And by 9:20, it hit outside. I saw it first on my phone. An anonymous post. No author. No signature. Just a carefully written narrative. Clean. Convincing. Poisonous. Senior executive accused of manipulating client data to secure personal gain. No names. But enough details. Enough specifics. Anyone who knew, knew. I looked up. Across the office, Vanessa was sitting at her desk. Calm. Typing. Like nothing had happened. But her eyes, they flicked up once, just once, and met mine. She knew I'd seen it. I didn't move, didn't react, didn't give her anything. Because this was her endgame. Not secrets, not whispers, narrative control. She doesn't destroy you all at once. The politician's words echoed in my head. She makes sure you destroy yourself. And this was designed to do exactly that. I grabbed my phone and called Daniel. He answered on the second ring. I've seen it, he said before I could speak. Of course he had. You okay? I asked. A pause. Then, yeah. But his voice, tight, controlled, on the edge. Good, I said, because this is where she loses. Silence. Then, tell me. I walked toward the elevator. Calm steps. Steady breath. We don't fight the rumor, I said. We expose the source. That's risky. Not as risky as letting her control the story. Another pause. Then, okay. That was all I needed. Because this was the final layer. Not defense. Offense. I didn't go back to my desk. I left the building, walked 3 blocks, turned into a small office with no sign on the door. Inside, a man looked up. Mid-40s. Sharp eyes. No wasted motion. You're early, he said. I'm right on time. His name didn't matter. What mattered was what he did. Digital forensics. Reputation warfare. The kind of work that lives in the gray areas. I placed a flash drive on the table. Everything we have. He didn't touch it yet. Situation. Active attack, I said. Anonymous source. Coordinated spread. Likely timed release. He nodded once. Then finally picked up the drive. How fast? I met his eyes. Fast enough that she doesn't get a second move. A slight smile. Good answer. And just like that, the hunt flipped. By noon, we had the first crack. The post. It wasn't truly anonymous. Nothing ever is. Metadata. Routing patterns. Timestamps. Vanessa had been careful. Used layers. Proxies. Delayed uploads. But she made one mistake. She reused a network. Just once. And that was enough. By 1:40 p.m., we had her. Not suspicion. Not theory. Proved. I stared at the screen. There it was. Clear. Undeniable. The origin point. Her device. Her connection. Her fingerprint. Lock it, I said. Already done. Because once we moved, there was no going back. I called Daniel. We've got her. A breath. Then, send it. I didn't send it to him. I sent it to everyone who mattered. The firm. Legal. Compliance. And the journalist. Because now it wasn't just a defense. It was a story. And stories spread. By 3:15 p.m., the narrative shifted. Not slowly. Violently. Anonymous accusation traced back to internal source. Evidence suggests deliberate manipulation of information. Questions raised about prior incidents involving same individual. Her pattern was no longer invisible. It was public. I went back to the office. This time, no whispers. Just silence. Heavy. Watching. Waiting. Vanessa wasn't at her desk. But I knew where she was. Daniel's office. I walked there. Stopped outside. The door was open. She stood in the center of the room. Still. Composed. Daniel sat behind his desk. Calm. Focused. Between them, a war that had already been decided. You moved faster than I expected, she said. No anger. No panic. Just acknowledgement. You underestimated us, Daniel replied. Her eyes flicked to me. And for the first time, she really looked at me. Not as background. Not as noise. As the reason. You, she said softly. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. She smiled. But this time, it wasn't sharp. It was tired. I wondered when someone would figure it out. Daniel leaned forward slightly. You don't get to act surprised. She shrugged. I'm not surprised, just disappointed. In what? In you, she said. You were easier before. Silence. Then, Daniel stood. And everything about him was different. No, he said, I was quieter before. That landed. Because she understood the difference. And for the first time, she had nothing to counter with. No leverage. No fear. Just facts. And facts, they don't bend. There was a knock on the door. 2 people stepped in. Compliance. Illegal. It's time, one of them said. Vanessa didn't resist. Didn't argue. Didn't fight. She just nodded. And as she walked past me, she paused. Close enough that I could hear her whisper. You didn't remove the one thing. I didn't move. You just replaced it. Then she walked away. Gone. Just like that. I stood there for a moment, letting it settle. Then I turned to Daniel. It's over. He looked at me and shook his head slightly. No, he said. A small pause. Then, it's just different now. I frowned. What do you mean? He exhaled, looked out the window. She was right about one thing. I didn't like the sound of that. What? He turned back to me. Everyone has something. Silence. Because that was true. The difference was, who controls it? And this time, it wasn't her. It was us. Weeks later, everything had changed. Vanessa was gone. Not just from the company. From the city. No forwarding address. No statements. No noise. Just absence. But her story. That stayed. Published. Documented. Connected. The 3 men. Daniel. The pattern. It all came out. Not as scandal. As truth. And truth. It doesn't just expose. It warns. Daniel rebuilt. Not quickly. Not easily. But honestly. And that made all the difference. As for me, I learned something. Control isn't about what you have on someone. It's about what they believe you can do with it. Vanessa believed fear was power. And for a while, she was right. But fear only works until someone stops being afraid. And when that happens, everything collapses. Even her. Especially her. Because in the end, the one thing that kept him in line was never hers to begin with. It was his. And once he took it back, she had nothing left. Nothing at all.